Still Breathing, because that is the song that we are going to be focusing on. But first, we want to find out more about Mark Prey and the Hunters, starting with Mark Prey and Todd Borenstein. Borenstein. How do you pronounce it best? Stein. Stein. Okay, got it. Anyway, I'm blabbing on, but anyway, we're here to talk about the song Still Breathing. But first, we are going to find out about these two guys and how Mark Prey and the Hunters actually started out. But how did you first discover Mark as a guitarist and a songwriter?
I knew Mark. I didn't know him personally, but I knew about him in high school, and I knew he was a guitar player. And I didn't know he was a songwriter yet, but he was in a band and I was in a band, and we crossed paths one day when his band was playing, and I was sitting in the audience watching. And that's pretty much the extent of that until he moved to South Carolina to join a mutual friend's band, and I came out a couple months later to play drums, and that's when we really started writing songs.
Right, cool.
Yeah, I believe the name of the band that was playing was called Greenwood, and it would have been Jim Kasuda, who's an amazing fisherman now. It would have been Bruce Rogers, a bass player by the name of Dave Williams.
That's it.
And it would have been Peter Rogers. So it was the Rogers brothers, Dave Williams, and of course the highly stoned Jim Kasuda on the drums. And that was the band that you probably saw, Todd. And we would have been playing at that time, we would have been playing our favorite music, band called Greenwood, Doobie Brothers. That's what we were doing at the time.
Yeah, well, we were more amplified and more rock and roll. You were more,
more like acoustic and more,
yeah,
sort of what you would call organic, I guess.
It was fairly well documented that there was a management entity in Madison, Wisconsin, that received your demo tape and then gave it up. Gave it to an upcoming rock band that included your music on the record. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'm sure that Todd remembers more about that than I do, but I'll try to fill in some of the, some of the lines on that one. So there was a band that was up and coming. They were playing mostly in Chicago at the time, Chicago area. I think they were from Illinois, as I recall, but they played in our region a lot, and they were up and coming, and they were really, really loud live. And they were also really, really good, and a lot of people loved them. I remember Ray Kettner, who was my guitar tech during the time. I heard about them through him. He said that these guys are really, really great, right? And you have to go out and see them. Of course, I never did, but I should have, because that would have been a great time to go out and see that band. And they were on the rise. Clearly, they were kind of a regional sort of a hit at the time. I think they might have had a record contract even. But it was before they really hit it.
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard the ripoff was I was in a clothing store at one of the malls in town, and I'm shopping around for jeans, and all of a sudden, they're playing all the hit music over the PA, over the speakers in the store, and all of a sudden I hear our song start. It wasn't exactly the same, and they slowed it down. And I think they just took our main riff as their main intro. Like you said, what started it was you and I trotted our cassette tape of our original songs up downtown Madison to the management office of this band and met with them, seeing if they liked our stuff and wanted to handle us and wanted to promote us or whatever. And our mistake was leaving the cassette with them.
Yeah, just the fact that we're talking about it now over 40 years later, and it's still a thing. Was it a mistake to leave that cassette? I'm not sure if it was. I think I was as shocked as Todd was. I could hardly believe it because I felt like it was me playing that music up there.
Mhm.
And that somehow what we had done was actually getting some traction. And at the time I was also a little bit angry, but not angry enough to know enough to do anything about it.
We'll talk more about that later, but I wanted to move on with a question for you, Todd. When did you first write? When did you first start writing songs with Mark?
80, 70, 78, 79. Did we write songs in South Carolina?
I'm trying to remember if we did. It was difficult, but we were forming our chops at that time, I think.
I think the first time we started writing songs together was when we were in a band called the Sound Review, and it was a show band in the early 80s during the disco days. And Mark and I would just retreat into either his hotel room or mine, and we'd sit down, write songs, and then we'd go to my customized van, which had a cassette recorder in it. That's
Mhm.
where we would record them.
I think that's where some of the best songs were done, actually.
I still have those.
Was that was let's see, I'm trying to remember if the song that is on song called Mood Wrecker that is on the Still Breathing release, which is going to be happening the 18th, by the way. I'm going to do a plug for that. We have the CDs are out today, and then of course the going to the music services will be the 18th, and back to whether or not Mood Wrecker was a part of that process. Todd, do you remember if it was or not?
Um, in those are real first days, I don't think we had Mood Record yet. I
We
think
didn't. Okay.
Mood Wrecker in your basement with your TAC 4 channel.
Right, that happened later.
Yeah.
Right. Great song, by the way, and
Oh,
it's amazing how that stands the test of time.
mhm.
Um, so
Oh, it's so
Well,
much fun resurrecting these songs for this album.
this is for Mark. How did you transition from playing cover music to playing original music, and what was the impetus for that?
one of the things that I was doing at the time was I was trying to navigate my music and trying to navigate my so-called life. I want to do something that's not what I was doing for the past couple years. We ended up, Todd and I went into a supercharged kind of a creative, and Todd is still like this. He hasn't changed one bit. He is still incredibly prolific when it comes to generating not only sonic content, but also visual content as well. And so I've kind of slowed down a little bit, but that then we were both supercharged, I think. Would you agree with that, Todd?
We'd make up songs just sitting there, just from a riff.
Yeah.
I'd have my
Right.
little drum set there, and we'd put it together.
It was fun. It was a lot and then I think that this sort of thing is kind of contagious. So what you end up with is some of the areas, really the finest musicians in the area, guys like Ken Strand, people like that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, Wally Spletstoser, just one of the best bass players in Madison at the time. They could feel that energy that we had and said, "Hey, this is something I want to be a part of," and this is something they were a part of.
Just
Um,
those
but I mean, some of these people that Todd and I worked with are still good friends, and we share music, and we it's on a social basis, of course, but it's a lot of fun because
Well,
they were part of it.
did you have anything else, either of you, to keep on with that
Well, Todd,
the subject?
Was there anything that you remember that was really driving you at the time?
um, It's- I come from a musical family. My dad was a big band musician, played in big bands in the 40s and 50s, and so I had it in me. So that's all I wanted to do. I was lousy in school. I was lousy at sports, but music, I mean, ever since I was five, I was pretending I was in a band, when the Beatles came along, of course, that old story. So I was just driven, and I could tell that you were driven too. And so I just felt like I had a kindred spirit, and we just, it was just fun to make up stuff, make up songs, and that's all I wanted to do.
Well, that's great. We're going to move on to a question for Mark here. What kind of clubs did you play the original music in the Madison area when you did your original music?
Well, first of all, I'd like to create a bit of a contrast with that question. So we had been playing, Todd and I, in a number of bands. He mentioned the Sound Review. We had been playing basically lounge clubs, and that was really fun. I mean, it was really good, and we did a lot of that. Um, but playing original music was a completely different experience with regard to the venue, and we ended up playing clubs like Vig's. We ended up playing Bunkies. Todd, help me out here.
Hoffman House,
Yeah, so
House
it's a
Heat.
different vibe completely when you're doing original music, but if the music is good and people can dance to it, you get kind of a similar vibe that we were getting when we were doing cover music, which it's a feeling you get when you're up on stage and people start dancing and they like your music.
We used
And of
to,
Um,
course, this was before the advent of CDs you could make and just sell at the gig. This is
Absolutely, this
eons
was before
ago.
that, but there were also you know, folks that would come out to just listen to the music as well. And that was really kind of the segue.
get them on the dance floor going with that stuff, and all of a sudden we'd hit them with two or three originals, and they'd still be out there not knowing what they're listening to, but digging it. And
This leads me to interject here, only because, well, I do know about you guys. Uh, and I think it's a pertinent question right now. You are now bringing back to life some of these old songs with some new tweaks and things like that. I think that's fantastic. Um, how do you feel about some of those songs that definitely at the time you were trying to sound kind of like what was really popular at the time? And how does that bringing back that music and reliving it in a brand new version of it? How does that feel for you guys? What was your process in thinking about how to do that? Did you try to bring it a little quote unquote up to date and not so much from that era, or what was the process there?
well, back then we had tape, and it was everything was analog and 4 track, and so we did what we did, and that was cutting edge back then. But what's so cool now is to take those songs, our favorite songs, which really need to see the light of day because they were very good, and bring it into the new technology, everything that is out now that is available to us to redo these songs and bring them up to date.
Have you had any issue with, like, how far do you update what was originally there um, when you're deciding how to has how does that feel? Heart
I can
rate,
speak to that a
yeah.
little bit. So
Oh, okay.
we, I always look upon a composition standing on its own, and the process that I've kind of worked through the years now. And Todd and I, although we're both successful producers, we do work differently. And I think that Todd tends to really, really do a good job of getting to the nub of a song quickly, whereas I'm the kind of person that doesn't do that. I will grind on the details to a point of just driving everybody I'm working with crazy, right? And Mark, I think you know what I'm talking about because you're one of those
Yeah.
people, right?
Well,
And
the thing is, producing, it was, as an engineer, I was a musician first. Then I couldn't eat my music, my mama said. So I went off to school to learn how to eat other people's music. So that's, that's part of it. But now my background as a musician, and then on into engineering. And then my whole goal was hoping to be a producer of some sort, collaborator, really. And that's where I'm finding great joy in this project and all the others I've worked with you guys on. So
yeah, and I must say,
there's,
Mark has been a longtime collaborator. And we started way back when. That's a whole nother podcast again
yes,
on just
that's a
that.
different thing.
But
Right.
going back to crafting a song and um, how do you approach crafting a song that's 40 years old? I think Todd nailed it. You have to bring it alive by using new technology, which is exactly what I was trying to do with these songs like Mood Wrecker,
Hmm.
and some of the other ones that we've been doing. You can go out to the social media and see a song called Backbeat that's been very, very successful. But those are
I
two good
love that. I love
those are
that
two
song.
two examples of how you craft a song that's 40 years old to make it new again. And and so that is something that I found when I was first using AI. I thought AI would be helpful, and it was to a certain degree, but there's a point where it's the old fashioned doing it yourself, doing all the tracks yourself, doing all of the arrangement and all of the performance yourself. Of course, in order to release a song, you cannot use any AI, so that's kind of a moot point. You have to do all the songs or all the tracks yourself in order to release it.
Did you ever dream you would be recording and promoting the songs from then today? And what does that feel like?
If we could just resurrect these old songs,
Right? Yeah.
yes, and have Mark redo them with all that he knows and learned since we did them,
Right.
it's a dream come true. And I just want to take the opportunity right now is to say thank you for doing this.
And again, the technology now is so incredible. What anybody can do, and it's scary, of course. I think it's really exciting for you guys.
Pretty much all of those things that we're talking about, Todd also brings these to the table as a producer, songwriter, composer, performer. He does all those things, and he does them all as well as I do. What you see with what you hear, they're both incredibly important.
I hear you two had a few laughs preparing for your performance with a show tune set or something like that. It was in sound review.
What it morphed into was one of the most fun experiences of my life, which was playing in these lounges, which we mentioned before, but playing with Todd as the drummer. And we had several really great players come through. The funniest thing that I can remember trying to do that original show idea was doing Oklahoma. And
What
so,
happened was we were booked by Jerry Stieber until we caught wind of this booking agency out of Chicago or Milwaukee.
yeah, it was
Okay. Artist Corporation of America.
ACA.
So we
ACA.
met with them at a club that we played at a club in Milwaukee. They came to see us, and there was a big meeting, and they signed us. So they sent us all over the United States in this a converted school bus. Uh, Played 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there, 2 weeks here. Howard Johnson's, Holiday Inns, the hotel lounge circuit. Somebody told, and this was during the disco days, early 80s, right? Where there's the disco balls and the flash and people are dancing and stuff. And some club owner said, "Do you guys, to Sue, do you guys do a show?" meaning a disco show. She took it as meaning a show.
Right.
And she said,
Oh, God.
sure, we'll work one up for you. And her idea of a show was Oklahoma and all the songs from Oklahoma. And so she sent Mark and I out to the cornfield to pick corn stalks to put around the stage to make
To
it look
use
like
as
a bar.
props. Yeah.
Oh my God. Just go get the crops for the props.
Yeah. And Mark and I are going, Sue, this isn't what they mean. They don't mean a show like Oklahoma, a musical. They don't mean that. They mean a glitzy dancing disco show. No, no, no. I'm sure they mean Oklahoma. So
Little Miss Can't Be Wrong.
Mark and I took it literally by the tail, and it went out to the pool, the hotel we were staying at, where the band was playing, and we drew up donkey faces and made them into masks that Norb could put in front of his face while he was singing, and came up with all these crazy ideas and put corn stalks all over the stage, and it was our second set, I believe. Killed our first set, our usual disco cool stuff.
Or-
So second set came along. We launched into Oklahoma, and these slow, death-defying songs and everybody's in the audience going,
Yeah,
What
just kind of,
hell?
the suspension of disbelief,
yeah. And we played the set. The owner or the manager came up and said, "You guys are fired."
You are out.
Out. Can't we play? We have one more set. No, you don't.
You don't have one more set. That's it.
So
Oh my
then
God.
it was only then that she was convinced that
Let's.
she was wrong.
Norb was a really cool guy. We really
He was a
liked
cool
Norb
guy.
a lot. He was really cool.
In fact, when we first formed Mark Prey and the Hunters, he was our keyboardist.
He was. That's a good point,
Ah.
Todd. I almost forgot about that, but that was really true. He was later replaced by Ken Strand, and
Yeah.
and I can't think of two more competent, super fantastic Madison region musicians that would have done that.
And he was a funny guy. His jokes were hilarious.
He was very kind. He was very, very gracious, very intelligent. And then I got a job at a place called Huracan Corporation, and met a guy named Mike Armstrong, who I'm still good friends with, and we've done a couple Mark Prey and the Hunters CDs together. And I work with Tom McNaughton, who became a long-term collaborator with me as well. So that's how it ended. Is we just basically all moved on.
I shot video of you.
It was Jerry Stieber and the Versatiles. It was the Sound Review. It was Paradise, and it was Paradise all the way to 2008 when it became Mark Prey and the Hunters again. So that's the sequence.
And I was so happy to see that you were still carrying on with Mark Prey and the Hunters. I mean, I thought that was something that we just put together to play our stuff, and then it was done. But then when I saw that first record come out, I'm like, all right, Mark's going. He's still got it going. I was
Right.
Yeah, that
I mean-
was great. I knew Mark from a fellow friend, Paul Anthony Rademacher.
God rest his
And-
soul.
God rest his soul. But anyway, that's how I met Mark, and I feel so fortunate to work with you, Mark. I essentially was like, wow, this is great stuff. Hello, Mark Prey and the Hunters fans. I am your host and longtime behind-the-scenes collaborating member of MPH, Mark Fretham. Welcome to the show. Today we are joined by two of the founding members, Todd Bornstein and Mark Prey. These two are no strangers to the creative grind. Their partnership traces all the way back to their initial collaborations in the early 1980s. After a few chapters apart, they reunited recently to pick up on exactly where they left off. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you here. Let's dive into what you've been working on lately.